hit like, and subscribe. You're watching the Marc Lamont Hill official YouTube channel.
Peace, family. It's your brother, Marc Lamont Hill. Welcome to Night School. Every night here on the Marc Lamont Hill official YouTube channel, we hold Night School. We break down the most controversial subjects, the most engaged debates, the most interesting topics going on in the world today. And tonight is no different. We have an interesting development in the Diddy case. As of right now, it's midnight. Tuesday going into Wednesday. We are standing on the precipice of a verdict. To be even more specific, the jurors have reached a verdict on 4 of the 5 counts. This is not surprising in a certain way. This trial's been going on for weeks now, almost 2 months now. But they've only been deliberating for 12 hours. They've only been deliberating for 12 hours. And 12 hours isn't a long time for all this evidence. It's not a long time for all this stuff to have to think through. This is a complicated case. It's a messy case. There were a lot of witnesses. There's a lot of evidence. There's a lot of stuff that people had to think about. And yet they came up with a verdict on 4 of the 5 counts in just 12 hours. There remains one more that they have to think about. We'll talk about that. The racketeering conspiracy charge. The racketeering conspiracy charge is the one charge that they have not reached a verdict on. Now, interestingly enough, that's the top charge. That's the one that carries the weight. That's the one that could have him locked away for a long time, a long time. And so to see that one still being deliberated upon gives you some insight, I think, into what's going on. The jury left a note. They gave it to the judge, and it said, we have reached a verdict on counts 2, 3, 4, and 5. 2 sex trafficking charges and 2 transportation to engage in prostitution charges. That's why we're saying there's 3 charges. It's 3 charges, but it's 2 counts of 2 of the charges. Anyway, I'm not sure how this ends on count 1, but I can tell you what I think is going to happen on the other 2. The jury's note specifically said, we have not reached a verdict on count 1 because we have unpersuadable jurors on both sides. The inability to reach a verdict on both sides is good for Diddy, right? And you have people who cannot be persuaded that he let a RICO. Done. People can't be persuaded on that. But that means people have been persuaded on the other 2 counts. Now, you could say it could all be guilty, could all be not guilty. It's hard to imagine that there are people who found him not guilty of the transportation, not guilty or trafficking, right? And not guilty of the transportation, but want him to be guilty of the RICO, or who believe he's guilty of the RICO. In other words, if the jury could not be convinced that he ran a RICO, if somebody's over there saying, there's no way he ran a RICO. I'm sorry, let me say the opposite. If there are people who say he absolutely ran a RICO, there's no way he didn't run a RICO. And it's hard to believe that those people believe that, but don't believe that there was sex trafficking and prostitution, because for it to be a RICO, there had to be a criminal conspiracy. So you have to already kind of believe in the other charges to believe in the RICO. The converse, although could be true, right? There are people who could say, you know what? I think he did those other 2 things, but there's no way it's a RICO. This doesn't feel like a RICO. This feels like an unfair, unreasonable charge, or a little hint of jury nullification. Like, yeah, this ain't what the law was for. He might have technically did it, but I ain't trying to find him guilty of that. which might get to that juror number 25 jazz. So it seems to me, based on logic, that based on what the jury said going into the close of Tuesday, that there are 4 charges, 2 counts of each of the 2 charges that he'll be found guilty of, and that he won't be found guilty of the RICO. Now, where it gets interesting is, and it could be 1 count of each. There's all kinds of ways that this could play out. But it seems that he's not walking from this. That's my read. Just my read. Just my read. There was another piece here. As soon as the judge, or excuse me, as soon as the jury started deliberating on Monday, the judge got a note saying that they were concerned about one of the members. This person they call a foreign-born Manhattanite. That's what the reports are saying. And they said that this person, quote, couldn't follow the judge's instructions. I don't know what it means to say you can't follow the judge's instructions. I don't know if it's a moral opposition. I don't know if it's an inability. Can't is an interesting word. So I don't want to read into what the can't of it all is, because I, again, don't want to make assumptions. But it seems to me that, again, there's clearly some challenge, some difficulty here applying the law to Diddy on that charge. I'm saying on that charge. Remember, if he gets the racketeering conspiracy charge, that could be life. That could be life. These prostitution charges, other charges, he could get a slap on the wrist in theory. And depending on how the jury sees this, depending on how the judge sees this could go in a few interesting directions. Another piece of this is there have been moments in the trial where people who have observed the trial in person, again, I haven't been there, have said that the judge seemed irritated. The judge didn't necessarily think that anything that the prosecution was presenting seemed like racketeering. So, you know, in terms of sentencing, it'll be interesting to see, you know, what the guidelines are. It'll be interesting to see based on how many counts he gets found guilty on, what the disposition is of the court. But if you are watching this thinking that Diddy's going home tomorrow or Thursday or Friday or whatever the jury finishes deliberating, you're sadly mistaken. If you're a person who was hoping that Diddy was going to prison forever, I suspect you also will not get the outcome you wanted, but he gonna get some years. And the brother is 56, right? 56, all right, 56. Yeah, we'll be 56 this year. So you give brother who's 56, 15 years, 20 years. I mean, that's not a small number. And he could get that. I don't want to make a prediction on sentencing, but I will make a prediction very clearly that he will be found guilty on at least 4 of the 5 counts. I suspect he will be found guilty on 4 of the 5 counts. So I don't think the racketeering case is going to be made in the minds of the jury. So either they're going to deliberate forever, or they may be satisfied with it not guilty on that one, but with the other one resolved. The other one's resolved. There were lots of notes from the jury, for the jury, excuse me. Ultimately, the judge ruled that the judge will get the transcripts for Cassie's testimony about the days before and after the brutal assault that Diddy inflicted upon her at the Intercontinental Hotel. There are other things, but I'm going to leave it there for now. In terms of the aftermath of it, you know, we saw Diddy talking to his mother before the marshals took Diddy out of the court. Diddy stopped and talked to Janice Combs and told her, look, everything's going to be okay. He told her to relax. And then this afternoon, after the jury was dismissed for the day, he told his mother again, he'll be okay. And he whispered to his 6 adult children, who were in the second row behind him. Now that's interesting. Also, you know, we saw them hold hands and walk out 2 days ago. We saw them at one point crying outside recently. There's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of stuff going on that I think, again, people are starting to think through. What does it mean when Diddy is found not guilty? What does it mean when Diddy is found guilty? The family, and I think the family started to come to terms with this. And there was a moment where they thought this would just blow over. I think there's a moment where they thought he would beat it. There's a moment where I think they worried that he wouldn't at all. But now, as we get near the finish line here, I think people are coming to terms with the fact that he likely will be found not guilty. I mean, likely will be found guilty, and that he will see some serious time, but probably not life. But that he will see some serious time. I'm going to take a couple of your questions here while we talk about it, and there's a couple of things that I want to. Tony said, "How much you want to bet he guilty for under 4 out of the 5?" I ain't betting on it. You know, I don't take. You know, it's one of those things where this is just such an ugly, nasty situation. I don't want to even make light of it, and I know you're not making light of it, but I would feel like I was if I bet on this, man. It's not a game. It's not sport. I hate that this has happened. I hate that Diddy's in a situation where he harmed people. And, you know, I hate people harmed is probably a better way of putting it. You know, so it's like, but Diddy's the person who's at the center. So I'm saying, you know, whatever you think about Diddy, there were a lot of victims here. And so it's hard for me to think about it in any terms other than that. Henry Jackson said, "Wow, Diddy is a monster. Let's not lose sight that his monstrous behaviors were not addressed until he began to in the alcohol industry." I'm not sure that that's true. In fact, I'm going to say I'm sure that that isn't true. Diddy is not on trial or facing considerable prison time because he, you know, fought over his liquor brands before, because he fought over Ciroc, because he sued for your royalty, all that stuff. That's not the case. I'm sorry. Every time a black person gets arrested or charged or gets held accountable for some gross act of violence, it's not because they were battling capitalism or the corporate world or all of these things. They're not always about to buy NBC. They're not always about to sue the alcohol industry. They're not all, you know, sometimes people do fucked up things. Now, look, I mean, I think there's an argument to be made that this doesn't happen if he settles with Cassie. I think that could make sense. Rennie, you hit the nail. We think in the same way. I think that there's an argument here that he could have prevented this, but it ain't from that, you know. And you hitting the nail right on the head, Tony. I hate this black men sabotage conspiracy. Yeah, me too. It's just, it's frustrating. It's stressful. I think it doesn't do any service to the victims. And look, I don't put it above the powerful. I don't think corporations would make. I think they would do that if they could, but I don't think that's what's happening. Isaiah, if you want me to go to sleep, you go to sleep, man. It's late, brother. Go to get some rest. I'm good. We good over here. I'm actually quite awake. Baby K asked if Donald Trump can pardon him. That's a good question. Yes, again, it's federal. He would have no control over state charges, but federal charges, yeah. You know, and this is where the difference between, say, Larry Hoover and him come in. You know, whereas Trump could not do anything about Larry Hoover's state charges, only federal stuff. Here, Diddy's only looking at federal stuff. So yeah, he could pardon him. He could also commute the sentence. Let me tell you something. Gerald Bannon says the streets are saying Trump might pardon him. He might. Based on what we've seen from Trump, it's possible Diddy doesn't spend a minute in prison if that's what Donald Trump is on. I don't know why Donald Trump would do that, though. Not saying he's above it. I just don't know what the angle is. Trump does things that are good for him. I don't see the angle on this. Again, I'm not saying it's not going to happen. I'm just saying I'm curious to know the angle. If Donald Trump knows I'm sorry, if Diddy knows where some bodies are buried, because Diddy had a lot of pictures and a lot of stuff on a lot of people. If Diddy knows where the bodies are buried, Donald Trump might just be checking that box. Pardon? Like I said, Diddy was anti-Trump. Diddy might have been anti-Trump politically, but they partied together. They hung out together. They socialized together for decades. Now, I don't know how closely they did, but I'm just saying it would. And I suspect Donald Trump wouldn't be getting down with the get down around Diddy, just on some race shit. You know what I mean? Donald Trump had his circle and his friends, some age shit and some social shit. It would not shock me if Donald Trump had no dirt that Diddy had access to, and therefore it doesn't have a need to do it, and it's not in his interest to do it, because if Diddy is framed as a monster, what do you get for letting him off? It ain't like a whole lot of black people are looking for this outcome in the way they would be some other cases. So it wouldn't shock me if Donald Trump had nothing to do with it. It also wouldn't shock me if Donald Trump had something to do with it. But if I were betting, I would say, nah, he ain't doing that. He ain't doing that. See, Eric Adams serves a purpose for Donald Trump in New York. Eric Adams, particularly at the time of Trump's moves, was an elected official who was probably going to do 8 years in New York. Trump kind of rests his home in his head and hangs his hat in New York and Florida. So those two places make sense as places where you would want to have a presence. Somebody said if they found him guilty on the 4 counts, wouldn't that automatically include 2 predicate acts of the RICO? Why would they hesitate on that one? There might be a hesitation, not about the criminal acts, but the use of the organization as the engine for those acts. There might be people say, yeah, he did crimes, but was racketeering one of them? Were his business infrastructures being used to advance this criminal plot or this criminal plan or these criminal actions? I think people might say yes, people may say no, but I think that's what I think that's what's up in the air to them. I think some of this is about legal definitions. As Tony said, do you think there needs to be a conversation about sex addiction in Black communities, especially once people gain wealth? No, I don't think that Black people have any unique or particular predilection for sex or sexual deviance or sexual violence or sexual harm or sexual experimentation or anything sexual when they get money or when they don't. I think there's something to be said about rich people and weird shit that rich people do and dangerous shit that rich people do and violent shit that rich people do and just non-traditional things that rich people do. But I don't think it's about Black folk. And you say especially once people gain wealth, meaning that even some of it might exist before Black people get wealth. No, I think some of those arguments and searches kind of pre-frame Black people as pathological or weird or deviant, and I don't think that's fair. Fifella said, I think they have found him guilty of 3 of the 4 counts. I think they feel he's guilty of the RICO, but can't agree unanimously on the same 2 predicate acts, which they have to do. That could be it too. That would still fit within my sense, which is that we got this other stuff figured out, and it's likely guilty, but we don't have him nailed on the RICO. This is the point that I'm making. Suppose I'm right. So that's right. Jurors get hung up on RICO as a concept. They often look for more than what the letter of the law requires. And that's my point. I think that might have been part of what the jury instruction was. The jurors saying, look, we need more than this. Juries don't just go by the letter of the law. Juries also go by what they think is right. And there might be people who be like, Diddy's fucked up. He's a monster, but I don't think it's a RICO case. I think he just did a bunch of things that are illegal. And so we're going to convict him on these things, but we don't think it's a RICO. Again, I'm just guessing. Boxy Brown 6900 said this trial is a waste of taxpayer dollars. Diddy deserves to be in prison, but not for what he's being charged with. That is a very common opinion, that Diddy's a monster and that Diddy has done awful things, even things the public knows about now, like the Cassie video, but that the things he's on trial for aren't fair. And then there are people who believe, look, Diddy's misconvicted. That, yeah, he probably could make a legal argument that the things he's charged for aren't the strongest things, you know, in terms of the case. But that after 3 decades of being above the law, after lots of allegations of violence, of maybe murder, of death, of extortion, of this, that whatever they actually got him with, that's just a proxy for all the things they didn't get him for, or penance even for all the things they didn't get him for. It's like the OJ argument. Remember, you know, OJ was found not guilty, and I'm pretty sure OJ. No, I'm not pretty sure. I'm certain OJ killed Nicole Brown Smith and Ryan Goldman, Nicole Brown and Ryan Goldman. But because he wasn't found guilty of that, the jury took it upon themselves to find him guilty on, you know, when he was basically taking his own shit back. And the judge and jury roofed OJ for some very minor crimes because they were really paying him back for the other stuff. There are people who feel like that's what's going on with Diddy, that whatever he gets convicted of, and regardless of how strong the case is, he need to be locked up for something. That's the argument. The problem with that argument is it creates a sense of lawlessness, because now you got people going around convicting people for things they didn't do and deciding that the jury got it wrong, and so we're going to double back and make you pay again, a kind of double jeopardy that's also illegal. So I don't like that. Either do it or don't. Balls Deep says OJ ain't do it. I'm sorry, Balls Deep. OJ did do it. Henry Jackson says, in real time, we are witnessing both at the presidential and the Supreme Court level, people acting above the law and not being held accountable. Yeah, welcome to America. Unfortunately, that is not a new thing. Your observation is absolutely correct, and we are witnessing it in real time. Grow up, y'all. Don't make fun of Balls Deep's name. We got any other quick comments before we roll out on this? Now, here's a theory. Woo, this is an interesting theory. Thabo Mtetwa says Trump is rolling out black pardons. The setup for pardoning Chauvin. That's an interesting theory. Because the question was asked rhetorically somewhat, or maybe not even rhetorically, was why would Trump do that? What's in it for Trump to pardon Diddy? Ooh, this is a good theory. Again, we ain't saying it's true. I'm not saying it's true, but this is a good theory that if Donald Trump is setting up to let out some other people, he's simply priming the pump with Diddy, and pardoning Derek Chauvin, the person who killed George Floyd, would be an interesting way to go. Now, Derek Chauvin has 21 years of federal charges on him for not for killing George Floyd, but for violating his civil rights. He also has a 22.5-year state sentence that run concurrently. So Donald Trump pardoning Derek Chauvin doesn't get Derek Chauvin out of prison. So I'm not sure why he would do it, but he did the same thing with Larry Hoover, so it's totally possible. But after the racial reckoning, after the uprisings, after everything that happened, to pardon the person who killed George Floyd would be a slap in the face, but that would track with Trump's track record. That would track with Trump's constituents. That would trump with the MAGA movement. But you could have a racial uprising. But if he were to pardon Derek Chauvin and Diddy, that would make some sense in Trump's mind. I'm not saying it should. I'm saying that would make sense. So that could be a motivation. Now, yes, you're right, Artie. There is no state charge, so Puff would get out. That's true. That's not in dispute for me. What I was saying was Chauvin does have state charges, so I'm not sure why. The question would be, why would Trump burn political capital pardoning Derek Chauvin if Chauvin still is going to be in prison for the same amount of time because of the state charges. That's all I would say. But if it's to make his base happy as a symbolic gesture, similar to what he did with Larry Hoover, then Diddy might be part of that trade as well. As Akia said, nobody black care about Diddy like that. I don't think that's quite as true as you're saying. But even if it were completely true, again, Diddy would just be a kind of public thing, like Trump, almost to make Trump look even-handed. So it's not so much that black people would be like, oh, he gave us Diddy, so we're okay. It's more like Trump is just into pardoning people for whatever the reason. And you're right. Both of you are right? That would assume that people care about the Diddy case the way they care about Chauvin. I don't know. I think that might be embedded in there, and the Trump people could just be miscalculating that. But it might also not be a situation where you have to care about one as much to care about the other. I think it's again, it's not to say like, oh, but he gave us Diddy, so we're okay with it. It's more about the historical record. It's more about the narrative. It's more about his legacy. If he could make the case that, look, there's a lot of controversial people of all races, of all political ideologies, etc., who I pardon just because I think that's what should happen, it may end up looking better for him to pardon Diddy too, if that's the angle Trump is playing. Now, Trump may not play the angle at all. Trump might just be like, I don't give a fuck what y'all think. I don't care what the record is. I don't care what the public says. I damn sure don't care what black people think. I'm pardoning who I'm pardoning, and I just don't care. And I don't think y'all have the attention span to even remember or pay attention. All of this is possible. All of this is possible. Who knows? We're going to find out very soon. We're going to find out very soon. And again, this isn't a false equivalency. This is just saying how Trump might be calculating this. Now, and moving to a different piece of this, Hayek Glamazon said, if acquitted, can Diddy ever relaunch a career? That's, again, an interesting question. Diddy will never be who he was. He'll never be what he was. Let me start there. It's just not possible. It's just not possible. But this is America. This is the West. We just don't care about people that much. We don't care about victims that much. We don't care about women that much. We don't care about poor people that much. I could keep on going down a list of things this society don't care about. So could I see a situation where in 5 years Diddy's producing films or, back at award shows, or at least kind of accepted as a figure in polite company? Yeah, I could see it. I could see it. Relaunch a career might be much, but I think any career he relaunches will be more behind the scenes than in front. That's why I say, like, maybe, having a company that produces movies or being behind some music stuff, but like not in the videos, and the word bad boy ain't gonna pop up, at least not in the first year or two. But at some point, Diddy, if he is home, is going to reintegrate himself into Black society and Black culture. And I think Black people are a forgiving people. We are going, we're gonna let some people back in. Boxy Brown said, would you rather pardon Trump? Would you rather Trump pardon Diddy or Robert Kelly? I don't have, I don't think in those terms. I don't know if that's the proper or right way to think about it, but I know I don't think about it that way. So I don't have a response to that. But I'm not walking around rooting for R. Kelly, and I'm not rooting for Diddy. So it's hard for me to think about it in those terms. And as an abolitionist, my brain moves differently when I think about how things could potentially go. Corey Terry said, try and get some sleep, good brethren. I appreciate you, brother. And I appreciate the other person who said it. I am going to get some sleep now. But I wanted to go live, and I wanted to talk to y'all for a little bit. And thank you for the generous donation, Corey. Isaac Hempseed also gave a generous donation and gifted 5 memberships. Thank you so much. If anyone wants to match that before we go, that would be fire. It's the top of the month, y'all. We could use the support. Please think about it. I agree with you, Rennie. That is a crazy, crazy question. Are they redeemable? I believe everybody's redeemable for the most part, right? And people who aren't, Maybe they are. I don't know. I think the work of trying is part of what it means to be human. It's part of the work of abolition. So restoration, healing, love, grace, mercy. So, you know, I think we have to do the work. We have to create the conditions for the possibility of it, whether we get there or not. Would be interested in hearing your thoughts on the strike happening in Philly. I am going to give that breakdown probably tomorrow. Now tonight, you know, I have some thoughts, but they're not organized, and I need to do some more reading. You know, it's been a crazy day or two, so I need to do some reading. But I'm aware of it. Gerald Bennett said, Mark, you made up with Mel. Yeah, you talking about this so-called beef with Melissa Ford that I don't think exists. If y'all really want to care about this, might care about this, might even thinking about that. I don't mean that any disrespectful. I just mean, like, I don't know if people really even care. Mark do a 24-hour stream like the youngin. Shit, Mark can't do a 1 hour stream. Fuck 24. Mark's struggling to do 1 hour streams. Yo, I'm old. I'm old. Angelic Beauty Products said, with the Manosphere, he'll have a career. Yes, he absolutely will. There are going to be people who start worshiping Diddy, just because of what he's charged with. You know, it's a act of defiance and weird resistance for certain populations of people. So, as whack as that is, you're sadly right. Karen D said people are analyzing your conversation with Mel on YouTube and TikTok. Oof. J. Scott said, I don't care about you and Mel's non-issue. See, that's what I thought. Okay, Emily Blake said something similar. Jacinda said, you know, interesting. Yeah. Kevin Samuels people need someone to say, ooh. And we had a conversation about Kevin Samuels today. One day y'all get to see that clip, man. It's interesting on JVP. Yeah, I can't wait to see what y'all say about that. Anyway, I am going to go to bed then. I appreciate y'all. I love y'all. Mark, they get slowed you down. I'm reading your comment. Okay. Oh man, Charming Sir Nick said, I'm 35. Been watching you since the HuffPost days. Thank you for being part of my left awakening. That means a lot. The HuffPost days about 13 years ago. That means you're watching me basically since you've been an adult. I can't tell you how much that means, but I'm glad to have been a part of your journey, politically, intellectually, ideologically. It means a great deal to me. Bullet the Buddy said, Lil Birdie told me Elon is going to bankroll Weston Wamp in District 4, Tennessee against Representative Chuck Fleischman. Hate for that to get out. I know you do, Bullet, and somehow we'll keep it our secret. Just me, you, and thousands of people watching. Appreciate you, Bullet the Buddy, as always. Man, y'all are so dope. I appreciate y'all. Anyway, thank you for watching, y'all. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. If you're so inclined, hit the join button and become part of the channel. We can use the support. Also, family, if you want, make a donation tonight. It's midnight. We are working. We are grinding. We're doing our best. Go to Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, or Zelle. Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, or Zelle. And drop something in. Support Night School as we go every single night. Tomorrow night, we got more dialogue, more conversation. We're going to do some deep dives on a few really important topics, including Iran and Israel. Shout out to Descendant, by the way, for gifting a membership. We really appreciate you. Keep supporting, man. We need you. man, we love you, but we also need you. We want to keep independent media going. We want to keep principal resistance going. We can't do that without a self-sufficient channel. Isaac MC just donated another one, man. Thank you, man. You have no idea, again, brother Isaac, how much we're grateful to you. Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, Zelle, drop something in, man. Show us some love. I can't tell you how much we appreciate it, man, but we do. We'll see you tomorrow night. Take care. Peace.